I realized it's been a little while since I shared some client testimonials. And so I decided I'm going to do that. I'm going to find snippets of some of my clients' results and some really deep discussions about what it looks like to work with me. And more importantly, the amazing, incredible results that my clients have achieved by God's grace, right? And they're changing their clients' lives. There's a ripple effect in our work. So I just pray that this blesses you like it has me in kind of gathering all this for this episode. Time is the most precious thing we have. Those little girls are not going to stay young forever. So I applaud you for doing the hard thing and deciding. I thought all that comes down to deciding, but you know what? Looking to the Lord, there's no better source, right? Capital S.
Well, I will say though too, yes, deciding. I'm glad you're bringing that up, because coming into work with you, that word itself has been like so huge. Because you look at different mindset coaches and people who talk about mindset a lot, whether it's Christ-centered or not, and everyone's got a different perspective to say. But when you say decide, I swear that is just sticking with me. And everything I do, I'm thinking about you. I'm like, Judy says you have to decide. Like, as a person again who maybe has grown up a little bit more people pleasing, a little bit more indecisive. I have never been as decisive in my life as I am now in this season.
I want you to cast a vision. Take us back to when you and I started working together. What was your biggest problem?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of crossed paths at a point where I was still in the process of, fully embracing my business coach hat and being a mentor to these practitioners. I had walked into your container and was like right on the cusp. I probably was about maybe 8 weeks into planning that. And so there were some things I decided to add in based on your methods. I was a little nervous, but I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I felt good about it. I prayed about it, and webinars and things like that, really just trying to serve them in all the ways I can. But strategically, I wasn't really looking at how that should line up with the launch. And so that's really what you helped me with is, okay, if my launch is here, I need to work backwards. This is what I need to do. And it becomes so much less overwhelming when you just look at it in that way. It's so much more manageable, even as a mom who works, I guess, technically 10, 15 hours a week, and hitting 5-figure months, a couple of 6-figure months here. So it's like, it's that was the biggest thing for me, was strategically planning that out and just resting in the Lord. I'll be honest, I definitely had like some hesitations with revisiting my prices, moving into this being my signature offer for practitioners. But, after getting through the weekly calls with you and really focusing on what is the transformation, what is the outcome that these women are getting, it honestly kind of became a no-brainer that should be my expectation. And thankfully, I know that you take a peek at our stuff in there, and it's such a blessing. And it really, I just was like, I'm really undercutting myself in a lot of ways. Like, and if I'm promising this value, which I know is true, and I know that they can achieve it, it's really no doubt that this is where I should be setting my price at. And
so let's talk about increasing profit as a woman of God, and the whole mindset around growth and expansion versus the guilt that some feel around money.
So I noticed such a trend in women who came to see me who needed healing that, I mean, to be blunt, it's kind of like we're playing really small. Like we feel like we need to shrink, we need to be really small. And that's just not true. We have anointing, we are chosen. There's so many lines in the word that tells us who we are in Christ. And so when I put that hat on, when it came to profit, it really gave me an understanding, like, yes, I'm here, to not just support my family, but to have a kingdom impact. And that's huge. And it's okay to be at peace with the relationship with money. Right. And kind of taking off that scarcity mindset that there's not enough, or maybe there's not enough people who would want to work with me, or not enough money, or the market's saturated. All these thoughts that like probably come from honestly seeing little things here and there from people. You have to just dismiss them out of your head and say, no, like, God's kingdom is not one of lack. It is abundance. And so there's no reason that can't carry over into my financial health.
We've been working together for about 6 months now. So would you briefly kind of talk about where were you before we started working together, and your experience inside?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, I have always felt that having a coach of some kind, right, is always helpful as an entrepreneur, because let's face it, it can be lonely, right? If nothing else, it's lonely. And I know that I've got great ideas, and I know that but sometimes you need a sounding board. Sometimes you need a different perspective. Sometimes you need somebody who's going to challenge you in some of these areas. And so for me, you and I had connected through a mutual connection. Yeah, probably about a year before I had done the mastermind. And I liked what I was seeing. But I was in another program and I really felt like, okay, I got to finish this one, whatever. Plus I had gone through some challenges with my business that really, I just didn't feel like I had the bandwidth to take on, anything else. So I completed that engagement, which really helped launch the Bridge program. And I completed that kind of assignment, if you will, that engagement, that opportunity. And I took a little time to kind of regroup. And then I was like, okay, what's next? And so I'm always looking at, okay, for me as a business owner, as a CEO, what's the next best thing I can be doing for my business? And I felt like the next best thing was to reach out to you. And of course, right, like, okay, I've got a lot in order. I've got a lot I don't know everything, but I've got a lot in place. And I was looking for somebody who was going to challenge me because you and I both have strong personalities, which is great, right? We're go-getters, we're advocates. And I needed somebody who was going to say, okay, Rhonda, yes, or will you consider this? Or tell me more about that, and get me to start thinking through some of the things or the decisions that I was going to be making. And I have felt that it's been a really great partnership. I mean, I see it as a partnership. You're invested in my business. You're invested in seeing me be successful. You're partnering in prayer when I get stuck in my head.
Yes, for sure. We all do.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think the other thing, Judy, that I will say is that maybe there's people that are listening that have been through group programs, and I'm going to get emotional, that they feel like they were sold something, or they feel like the people that had said that they were going to do something didn't show up and do it. And as somebody who over the years has trust issues, to have somebody that I know that if you said you were going to do something, you not only did it, but you over delivered. And I want to thank you for that, because you're reinstilling that there's, you're giving us hope, right? Because that's how I operate my business. Like,
and I just so appreciate that, because what I see going on in the coaching space disgusts me. And that is, everybody's just chasing the dollars and they're just hiring underlings under them. Oh, well, you want to work with me? I'm sorry, when you come in, you're not paying enough to work with me. You're not paying me to get my brain and my heart on your business. You're just going to have to work with somebody else. And I will never do that. So one of the things you and I talked about is like that high touch, and you and I strategizing back, and you push back a little bit. And I think that's really awesome. So talk a little bit about like the practical, you and me actually, like, even though it's in a group setting, us being able to really, go back and forth, you and me.
Yeah. So one of the things that stands out, and of course, when you've spent time together, there's a lot of different things I could address. But the one thing that stands out for me is the pushback that we were talking about the webinar, right? And you had implemented a new 2-step process for your webinar. And I had spent a year working with another coach and working on my webinar, and it was falling flat. It was not working. And you said, Rhonda, I want to challenge you. Would you consider doing a 2-step? And I'm like, Judy. Like, you don't understand. Like, I'm almost at the point where I'm like, okay, I'm going to give this one more shot. Okay. But I'm telling you, I want to give up. And you said, okay, let me help you. So you gave me the slides, you gave me the framework, right? And I started working with it, and I was putting stuff together. And then you and I hopped on a call, and we walked through it, and you tweaked it, and you watched it, and you gave me feedback, and we tweaked it. And finally we got to the point where you're like, okay, I think this is good to go. Is it perfect? No, but it's really good. So we went from this 1-step, process to a 2-step model, and we're getting eyeballs on the mini course. We're getting people that are signing up for the bonus training, and we're working on tweaking to get even more conversions by doing different landing pages and really kind of taking it to that next level. But it's working, even on a small scale, that now we can grow that. And I'm so grateful.
I want you to talk just for a second about, you said yesterday when we were chatting that there's strategy, but there's holistic strategy in the way I approach that, and the whole thought leadership, and the fact that I give you everything, templates, spreadsheets. I give you the Canva template. Like, just speak a little bit to that, because I don't believe that happens much, if at all, in other programs, no matter how much you pay.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, let's be real, right? I mean, we've all been part of programs on some level where they give you something, right? I mean, it's not that I haven't gotten templates in the past, but the difference with this was, I got the template that you felt like was going to work for me. It wasn't just, I'm giving the same template to every single person. No, you might share it with other people, but it was intentional for where I was at and what I needed, number one. And number two, you gave me feedback, so it's one thing for me to do it, right? But it's another to get the feedback from you to say, okay, yeah, what about this? Or can we tweak this just a little bit? Or, this part's really great. We don't need to do anything with that, right? So that was the piece that I think was missing. Like, there was still an opportunity for me to have some, as part of the mastermind, one-on-one time with you, to get some of that feedback. And then, of course, the group stuff as well. So I felt like, for me personally, I need that hybrid, the consistency of having a group program, plus saying, okay, yes, and let's dive a little bit deeper. And that's where you can have those conversations around, listen, Judy,
right,
help me, because, because I'm struggling with this, and you can be a little bit more vulnerable, I think, even more so.
Came together in November, and we were doing long-term strategic planning. The neatest moment, I think, of those entire couple of days together was as you were looking at your 3-year plan and like seeing the numbers, and there was a little bit of, oh my gosh, how much am I going to make, or how much? And I said, wait a minute, like just wallow in that lovely that you're planning, but at the same time, if the dollars scare you, just think about the impact. Don't even worry about the dollars. Just look at the impact, and you're like, oh my gosh, talk about that. Like that seemed to be like a huge breakthrough.
It was a huge breakthrough. Like many business owners, right, you have these milestones, right? You want to get to, maybe it's the break-even point, and then you want to get to the 6-figure mark, and then you want to get to the multi-6-figure mark, and then you want to get to the 7-figure mark. And so I'm at that point where I want to cross the 7-figure mark, right? And as I was crunching the numbers and looking at, what of the levers that I have going on could we pull to kind of do that. And as we crunch the numbers, you're right. The thing that I realized was, in order for me, like in helping the amount of people that I want to help and the lives that I want to impact, that was easier for me to get my head around than like, holy smokes, if I do that, then what? Like, it was a lot for me to take in, because I think what I was doing before was I was saying, okay, here's the goal dollar wise, right? And how do I back into it? What we did was we said, what is the impact? And oh, by the way, so it was a paradigm shift, and a big one.
Working together very recently, I think
Mhm.
7 weeks ago. Could you share why you made that decision?
Well, as I confess to Judy, and I will confess to y'all, because our healing comes through confession with one to another, right? So we're just sisters in Christ sitting here for a minute.
Amen.
When I very first started the business, I was given an investment to get it started, and I was scared. Like, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to invest that. I didn't know what to do to move the needle forward. And of course, in prayer, God immediately puts me in one of Judy's amazing masterminds. Like, literally within 4 weeks of me jumping on out of my executive position into this world of entrepreneurship, God says, here, never heard of you before. And suddenly I'm in this, masterclass, and I stayed in the back. I probably watched more of the replays than I showed up live. I never talked. I didn't do anything. And I just watched, and I was amazed. And I remember at the very end, I was like, Lord, I would love to work with her. And I can remember him so clearly telling me, yes, that's the whole point. That's why I put you in here. Sign up. And I just said no out of fear. And he just kept bringing you up and kept bringing you up. And every time he would give me a way to work with you, he would provide the finances, or he would provide the literal means to get to where you were, like whatever it was, like he would give it to me. And I would still just act in fear, until this last time he quite specifically woke me up at midnight and said, go, the card is open. You don't have to talk to her. You don't have to get on a sales call. Just go sign up. And so that's what I did. And so here we are.
And here we
Because since this quarter started, which is the exact same timing that I began working with you, I have tripled the revenue from the business last year. I'm not talking this year. I'm talking just so far this quarter. The amount in has been triple entire last year.
insane. And that's cash in the bank.
That's cash in the bank. That's not top line revenue contract signed.
Well, what is the biggest thing that you've learned? Like, what has been the reason for tripling revenue?
The messaging. Being in higher education, I didn't know how to position the authority that I already had. And positioning is so fundamental. And when you're writing, when you're marketing your book, that positioning is also key. So not only did it improve my own positioning in the marketplace, it improved my clients' positioning in the marketplace. In fact, positioning your book in the marketplace is strategy. That's where I keep saying it's strategic publishing, not just a DIY project. Because the last 2 books that my company has published have hit #1 new release on Amazon. That's not coincidence. That's strategy. That's learning how to position your book and having experts who have spent the time to figure out how that works and just make it happen.
Well, would you share for just one more moment, what is the experience like being in the room with me? You're in a group container. Do you talk about the level of access to me and the interaction and the feedback, that kind of thing?
So what I love is that you lead by example, so that when we are leading, we can model that for our own clients. And being in the room feels like a sisterhood. It feels like you have all of your business besties, that they are going to champion your business. They are going to champion your successes. They're going to stand there holding your arms up when you're struggling. And you always make sure that there is time for everyone who has a question to get coached. You give us access that we can ask for coaching throughout the week through specific channels. And you never feel like, oh, what am I going to do? I don't have access. I'm not going to be able to get this question answered. And you always know what to do next to keep moving your business forward.
I love working with you at the beginning. Like, I was just soaking everything in. I would be taking notes upon notes upon notes, because there was just so much information that was valuable, that was hitting me right where I needed it. And it was filling in those gaps of the things that I didn't know, but then also, once we kind of got deeper and, we would talk about different things, you were really good at pointing out and kind of giving me that tough love sometimes, because I would have these expectations, or I would have these thoughts or pattern of the way that I did things without even realizing that I was almost jeopardizing myself by how I was thinking. And so you would call that out, and you would, really kind of help to focus me. And I can be a stubborn mule, but you were in love, like you would just kind of repeat things as necessary as I would hit, different obstacles or struggles. And it did sink in. It might have taken time, but it did sink in. And
Absolutely.
it really has helped me to shift from just being willing to take on any client to now recognizing the clients that are going to be more profitable, the clients that are going to cause less frustration, the clients that are very fun to work with and make the job fun because we're aligned in the goal that we're trying to achieve. And so once I started working with you and hearing just different things about mindset and gaining some of the training and the knowledge that I felt was missing, the first quarter of 2021, I made a decent amount of money within that quarter. And so I was happy about that. But then in quarter two, I doubled that amount. And then in quarter three, I tripled that amount.
Wow.
And that was just a matter of learning how to talk to clients better, having more confidence in myself. It made a huge difference.
You jumped in and talk about some of the challenges you were experiencing. You just finished someone's program and you told me that it was really great for that, but that you felt like you were missing something.
First quarter of 2020, optimizing my podcast, which was so good. Building out my first iteration of my coaching program, which was a huge accomplishment, bringing in my first clients, right? Going through that, even creating a follow-up program on the fly, because at the end of 12 weeks, they're like, Lisa, we still need you. So like, okay, Lord, what do I do with them now? Right. And I literally was at this point where I was ready to kind of like expand a little bit of what I was doing, but I was just thinking like this much. Right. And so I remember getting on a call with you, right? And I had this all laid out. I'm already working with my website designer. I've got it all mapped out and the webpage is almost ready to go live. And and I was looking at this and you just looked at me and you were like, Lisa, this is so much bigger than that. And what are you believing that God can do? Right. And so I remember kind of, you really challenging me on what this could be versus I felt like I had to stay inside this box of, well, this is how big my audience is. And this is how much experience I have. And this is whatever. So I can only charge this much and offer this. And you really just helped me to see beyond that. And it all started with believing, that God had equipped me for this and that I was the expert who could help women get the transformation they weren't getting from anywhere else. Like you said, right? All the experts and things they tried, the programs, the planners, the All Start Monday or January 1st plans that weren't ever working or lasting. And then I really could be that person. And it blossomed literally almost overnight into a 12-month experience that women are so excited to be a part of. And, and I'm starting all of that now here in the new year and just, super excited about where that's going. And it just crazy how fast it went from like 0 to 60, even with what I had going.
Yeah, a little bit more context. Some of the things we did together is we got really clear on your best client. I think you had a pivot with that. We kind of expanded a little bit or refined your offer, including increasing the price. And then, you just kind of, I guess, got more clarity about your method. You had a beautiful methodology and now we really went all in. So tell me your perspective on that, on these tweaks, which really are relatively minor, but they made a world of difference.
It was interesting. I remember coming on that call with you. I just come through your 5-day workshop series. And I came on already deciding I wasn't going to say yes. I was already deciding I can't. And I have a legit reason. My husband is rowing the ocean as we speak, and he is taking a leave of absence from work to do it. And so, we're not getting that income for some time that he's gone. So I really did have that. But you helped me make such a shift just on that first phone call of really looking at my best client and who she was and how it was way too general. I was talking to every Christian woman in the world. Yeah. So you just showing me how to like what that looked like. And that was just the first level. And then you challenged me to take it down even deeper, a second level, which I resisted at first, but then I was like, okay, like prayed about it, took it to the chairman of the board. Okay. I could see this. And then it just like, as soon as I was willing to let go of that, it's like the floodgates opened. Right. And then it was just like the Holy Spirit was just downloading all the ideas and all the things that needed to be part of it to help her with her specific needs. Instead of trying to be this plain vanilla, and serve everybody.
Shared with me recently that until she jumped into the program, she made about 5K. And tell them where you are now with your launch. You've like 7 or 8x your investment, right?
So I did this 5-day workshop at the beginning of December. So to date, I'm now at 37,000 and some odd change. Just from that. Yeah. Right. And like, that's in less than a month, right? Less than a month, but it was getting clear on who it was, what it was, and then what's going to give her the best transformation experience. And not being afraid, because I did have somebody say 12 months, really? Who's going to commit to that? And I said, you know what? The person who really wants to finally change the fact that she's tired of being busy all the time and not really getting anywhere in her life or her business. She knows it's going to take time because she didn't get there overnight and she's not going to fix things overnight either.
Shared with him what's happened in your launch, almost a $40,000 launch. And for those that have husbands out there that may be doubtful, because maybe your husband was also doubtful about this, what is he saying now?
Yeah. Well, without telling the whole story, there was a time when he was like ready to walk away from our marriage because of my business. And I knew it wasn't the business. I knew that wasn't the issue. Right. And so it was really hard because not only was he not supportive, he was very antagonistic for a long period of time. And I just kept trusting the Lord and kept going to the Lord. And so, yeah, today when he called in the sat phone and he's like, I'm praying for you. I know you're working really hard at this business. And I was like, yeah, and guess what? One more person came in today and here's where we're at now. And he just started crying. And he's just like, I'm so proud of you. You are working so hard. And yet it's not just me, right? It's the Lord. And it's the wise women like you that I have around me. This earlier, but he goes, I know you're making a difference in their lives. Whereas
You jumped in and you had some hesitation too, but look what you've done in just a couple of short months. So what has made all the difference in this shift, both in your thinking and in the way you show up as a CEO and an expert and in the revenue that's generated? Why are you being so successful?
Well, I thought that the answer was going to be you were going to give me the right formula and the right step by step and all of that. And while you have given me a lot of that, right, there has been a lot of that. The deeper work has been the belief in who I am in Christ, but also who I am as an expert, as a time management coach, and what sets me apart from every other time management coach that's out there that's, just focusing on a calendar or a to-do list or a spreadsheet or whatever else. So I think that belief piece has, and I firmly believe find someone who's further down the road, right? Ideally where you want to get to next. And when they tell you to do something, block out the other noise. So I unfollowed podcasts. I got myself off other email lists from other people that I'd been following. And I was like, I'm all in, right? Like, what is it that I need to do? And I just leaned in and listened and applied and did it. And sometimes I didn't have every detail figured out, but that's okay. I just trusted the Lord was going to guide that as I went.
Like being in a community of believers, and talk a little bit about the one-to-one touch that you got with me inside.
Yeah. Well, I mean, especially as a solopreneur who's doing a lot of things behind a screen, it's very easy to feel like you're alone. And so I think having a group of like-minded women who we've all got our own, businesses we're growing and everything looks a little bit different. And yet there's this connection that's been super helpful. And one of the things I've really loved is just the time and attention that you have given to me, even inside of the group, right? Where I have submitted things for your feedback and gotten a 20-minute, reply via a video of, of what your thoughts and ideas and things like that were, or where I've worked through, one of the belief maps and, and submitted that to you. And you took the time to really help walk me through that and it wasn't just, oh, great job, Lissa, and just a quick thing for me. It was really taking the time to go into that and really to understand and know who I am and what my business is, so that you can really help me on a personal level, and not just be like, well, just do the module, right? Like sometimes it's just, we just make it so cookie cutter for everybody.
You had mentioned earlier that you had worked with other coaches. What would be, just one or two things that you found different in this experience with me inside?
Well, I think that personal touch is the biggest thing, because when you're in so many of these programs, like half the time you never even talk to the coach. I was in one where I did have opportunities inside of a group setting to have some interaction there, but it wasn't the same as getting some one-on-one, type of things. And that person really understanding exactly where I was in my business and what my goals were and what the process was that I was learning directly applied to what I was doing. And so, yeah, the fact that you take the time to understand that and to help us right where we're at really just is head and shoulders above just here's my great program that, has worked for thousands of people. Come, jump in the pond with everybody else.